and welcome to Biztech's Aha, the coaching show. Now, today, our special focus is on career development. And our guest today is Westley Foong. He's a speaker, trainer, and certified master coach. Now, he's going to help us navigate the power of goal setting in coaching by unveiling how strategic objectives can pave the way for remarkable strides in one's career. To tell us more, Wesley, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ryan, for inviting me on the show.
Now, Wesley, for a start, could you give our guests an overview of your background and your career so far as a coach?
Sure. So I actually started in the corporate MNCs in the sales and marketing, as well as engineering, working in multiple industries, and then segmented slowly into coaching. I actually discovered coaching during pandemic, when we were all in lockdown. And that is when, I realized that, there's something else I could pursue other than, climb the corporate ladder. So that is when I actually found out about coaching through CCA, which is Corporate Coach Academy in Malaysia. And I took up the coaching course with them. And that's basically how I started with them. So relatively in the coaching world, I'm still kind of new because it's just like, past 2 years that I've just started coaching. But I'm really excited, to be on this journey because I see that coaching has really helped me in terms of, in my clarity to help others, especially when it comes to career development.
Okay, so let's zoom in again as we talked about career development. What makes then coaching critical to career development today?
Right. So critical coaching is actually quite critical because it actually provides everyone with a personalized guidance and support. And this is where I see that, us as coaches be able to help individuals to navigate the complexities of the modern business world. How coaching helps in terms of accelerating your personal as well as professional growth is basically by identifying what are your strengths, what are your areas of improvement. And through that, we actually help you to set clear goals, develop strategies to achieve them. So especially in today's business world, right, where adaptability and continuous learning is constantly changing. So coaching actually helps to ensure that all the professionals remain competitive and definitely aligned with the industry trends as well. So this is why I feel that I'm so passionate about to introduce coaching, in terms of career development.
Now,
Yeah.
now, how has the perception, however, of coaching changed over the years?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. You see, when it comes to perception of coaching within professional setting, we already started, to understand that this was introduced in the workplace when it comes to remedial problems. So now it has actually evolved, in terms of the business dynamics in the workplace for a more increasingly complex career path. So how I see this change is basically there are actually two pivotal developments. So just now I mentioned about remedial essentials. So previously, what happens is that people are sent to coaches, for them to address any underperforming or address specific weakness. However, these days, right, this kind of mindset has actually shifted because a lot of corporations and even the professional themselves realize that coaching is actually quite essential element for fostering leadership, and actually also helps them to enhance their career performance and as well as the continuous professional development. In fact, I actually found out, through one of the studies that were done by International Coaching Federation that highlighted over 70% of the individuals who receive coaching observe and improve work performance and better relationships with their colleagues and bosses, as well as more effective communication skills. And this is further enhanced when you have actually embedded a corporate coaching culture within the organizations. So what this means is that, when actually companies have managers themselves going through their coaching course and then have them coach their teams, it actually led to higher productivity and employee satisfaction. And this kind of paradigm shift, right, you don't see a lot, but it actually helps you in terms of unlocking potential and enhance performance across all levels of the organization. Now, the other thing I also want to mention is that adaptation to remote work. Now, these days, we are actually working quite remotely and has demand surge. And this is where it actually introduced a lot of unique challenges, especially, since the start of the pandemic lockdown. Why? Because a lot of times, right, corporations, and bosses trying to figure out how exactly do we want to maintain productivity in isolation by ensuring that the employee be able to engage across the various digital platforms. So this is where coaching comes in. So what we do is basically offer targeted support for remote work dynamics. So for instance, basically a virtual coaching on remote employees engagement and productivity actually saw an increase in their improvement in various aspects, including adaptability as well as work performance. So in fact, there are also companies, right, big companies out there that actually adopted this digital coaching platform to actually support their global workforce. And this is further helped to actually bridge the gap between remote workers. So essentially, we see that the perception of coaching actually has changed a lot because you see that current market dynamics has changed as well, and so therefore, right, it's quite critical for us to actually help companies and also professionals to navigate in terms of the ever-changing market trends.
Now, give us some examples then of perhaps um, uh, case studies or measurable outcomes that you've actually done that have really positively impacted career development.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So just like I mentioned, right, how the impact of coaching has on career development. So we actually look at a few measurable outcomes. Sorry. So the measurable outcomes is basically look at how, in terms of the leadership development and overall organizational growth. Recently, actually, also through the ICF, right, I also found that in terms of the return on investments, they actually saw a 7-time return on investment in terms of coaching. And basically, when you actually have a comprehensive executive coaching program that targeted towards career development, it actually also improve and boost up their leadership capabilities within the management team. And why is that so? Because when you think about coaching, it's just between one-on-one, but actually it helps further to actually strengthen and develop their strategic thinking, their emotional intelligence, as well as the effective communication skills. And this is where they actually see, because of that result, the employee engagement actually increases, as well as the overall productivity. And pretty much I've been working with some of my clients as well, but not within the organization, just individually, to demonstrate this, to show them that when they actually be able to align themselves with their values as well as the corporate uh, visions and mission, that they're able to drive the organizational growth and success. On the other hand, also, I also want to mention that how is this help with the personal development when it comes to career development? Is that when we actually look at how mid-level managers, right, especially working through the coaching programs, they actually see a significant improvement in terms of promotions, and this is quite common. A lot of times, mid-level managers face burns out, or they face lack of passion because they've been doing it for so long, or they saw lack of opportunities for growth and promotion. But actually, through the coaching method, we actually be able to, help them to foresee and open up doors and opportunities for advancements as well. The other thing also we saw is a huge improvement in terms of the job satisfaction and as well as personal fulfillment. And this is basically come, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the emotional intelligence development, strategic thinking, but also one more important factor is really on the conflict resolution, as well as time management as well. So this outcome, right, basically it shows a big correlation between coaching and career advancement or development. So you actually see that how personally that it helps individuals to align them with the organizational needs as well as the market demands. And one of the reasons why they actually be able to see that so strongly is because when we actually have done a feedback session, pre and post coaching engagement, they just saw a huge improvements in terms of the leadership effectiveness. And because of this, right, like I said, when you see promotions, you also see an increase in the increments in terms of your compensation and salaries, as well as overall job satisfaction. And this actually translate to great benefits. Essentially, what organizations be able to see is a higher retention rates. That means they don't lose out to talents moving to competitors or other industries, and as well as be able to keep and train their team performance well. And most importantly, this also helps the company's bottom line by increasing productivity. So overall, these are some of the tangible proofs that we say, or measurable outcomes that they be able to see through coaching.
Now, Wesley, one of the key things, and I'm going to touch on this shortly,
Mm,
um, what are some of the key trends that you're seeing in 2024 in terms of career development and coaching?
Wow, I'm glad you asked this question. So you see, these days, right, there's a lot of talk about AI, artificial intelligence. So this is actually also being enhanced to offer personalized and scalable coaching solutions. So what happens is that there's actually a growing emphasis, for basically coaches to actually impart on the emotional intelligence as well as the resilient part of it. So this basically helps, the professionals to recognize the importance that the value that they bring to the organization. And one of the things that we see when it comes to shifting this corporate culture is that within the organization themselves, when actually embedded the coaching practices, they actually see that interactions and improvement within the team management and as well as the overall practice enhances further. So one of the things that when we talk about all these technology advancements, is really about changing dynamics. So when we talk about AI and we talk about personal learning, right? Of course, we can always offer this more personally when you actually analyze a person's learning patterns, preferences, and performance. But one of the things that we want to show how this actually enhances further is how it actually supports in terms of a certain industries in terms of their workforce development. So one of the things that AI actually did is that you take on the platform and then you build into it a machine learning capability to be able
Mhm.
to understand each employee's journey, career journeys, I would say, through the organization. And then this actually throughout that process be able to help them to see an engagement and improvement in the performance, right, within either a quarter, 3 months, or even a half a year, 6 months time. And this is basically how we say AI actually helps to improve on their coaching capability. Now the other aspects on technology that we also came about is called virtual reality. We all just heard Apple launched their goggles version. So the VR technology, basically, how is this being adopted? Is basically providing you with an immersed learning experience. So in other words, of course, we know that it simulates real life scenario. But what it does, especially in the North America side, they did with VR is actually how it coached them in terms of leadership development. So they actually did a study for a 12-month period I read recently between January and December of 2023 last year with a group of mid-level managers, right? And they actually engage in these simulated leadership challenges, receiving real-time feedback and coaching practices as well. So what they found, and through this study, is actually a 40% increase and really increase in terms of improvement in leadership competencies. So what we're talking about competencies here, we're talking about emotional intelligence, we're talking about the ability to do crisis management, strategic thinking capabilities, as well as be able to enhance their team motivation. Well, when you do the traditional coaching methods, right, it seems that this has been accelerated much further. So this is where we say that technology definitely enhances and increases that potential, especially in today's ever-changing business environment. But so most importantly, I would say that when it comes to human, we need to talk about the soft skills. We need to talk about how technology helps us in terms of building emotional intelligence. And this is where, right, also we look at how some global consultancy firm actually did a study as well. They want to find out basically if this is really be able to help, because there's always talk about EQ here and there, and how it's actually helped in terms of team engagement and performance matrix. So what I was saying is that, when this coaching program, the couple with the VR technology, actually helps to drive in terms of awareness, empathy, and effective communications because of the real-time stimulated scenarios that they're put into. So basically, they're able to go through this, so-called emotional landscape that they face on a daily basis with their teams and be able to practice this on and off. So they're able to create a much better scenario in terms of how they be able to engage their team in real life situation. So this is basically how it actually helps them to actually enhance their EQ. The other thing is more interestingly is, just now as mentioned, is in terms of soft skill is resilience, right? A lot of times, we face a lot of uncertainties in business as well as in personal life, and all this actually also affected us both, mentally, and as well anything that, we need to focus on. What is the right strategy to cope? Sometimes, through coaching, we give them positive psychology. We actually help them to adapt to change. But one of the things that we through the technology that we see is that when they actually embedded, or actually incorporate this into their practice as well, they actually see a much less stress and a much higher job satisfaction. And this is quite interesting because I always thought that, because we're faced with technology all the time, right? How is this going to further enhance us? It's pretty basically boils down to incorporating it as part of the practice and not using it as just part of the substitute. So this is why it's more important to actually demonstrate that coaching is actually an to be able to equip the individual. It doesn't matter what tools we use, whether we're talking about technology or talking about other assessments, but it's really about helping to equip individuals with the skills, to help them to improve. So that's why we say that the trends of in terms of coaching, can go on and it will further innovate in terms of how we can actually see to help address the challenges in today's workplace. And this is why I find that it's quite exciting because in Southeast Asia, especially where coaching is still quite new and we haven't pretty much touched on the technology use when it comes to coaching, other than just like this face, or virtual kind of setting. It's where I see that from 2024 onwards, we're gonna see more of this going to be built in, especially in terms of crafting a more personalized, support system for the professionals and as well for the organizations as well. So this is why I believe that we'll be able to help to meet the more complex and challenging demands of the workplace, especially in times when we think that this year will be quite interesting to say the least. Yeah.
Now, Wesley, one of the things which I wanted to ask you in terms of key trend is this: because of all the digitization,
Mm.
app-based delivery of coaching, virtual coaching, are you seeing that perhaps individuals are starting to invest in their own personal development and career development by actually subscribing to these services?
It really depends on what are their goals and what is their passion about. Because sometimes, right, if they actually see this is being beneficial to them, then they will actually take this route. Um, there are some professionals that actually prefer to go back to the traditional, which is the face-to-face interaction, and this is personally fine because oftentimes we see there are pros and cons in both platforms, right? When you talk about digital, no matter how good is AI or VR, they cannot offer one thing that I always tell people is the personal human interaction, the personal human relationship building. And that is where
Sure.
something that, technology will never replace us coaches, human coaches. But what it can do is basically help them to refine in terms of uncovering, what are their, their blind spots are and how they want to achieve their clarity in a better perspective. Whereas through the human coaches perspective is actually to enhance and help them to build a better relationship in terms of how they want to interact not just with their bosses and colleagues within the business environment but also outside in the public personally as well. So this is why I think there's a pros and cons to both. And of course these days when you talk about the youngsters, they probably prefer the the technology side of it.
So now, for all our audience, we're going to have a special session where we're going to have a simulated career development coaching session together with, and we're going to add her on, YY Teo. Hi, YY. Good to have you on the show.
Hi, Brian. Hi, Wesley.
Hi, YY.
Now, so YY, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, please?
Oh, my background. Actually, I'm working in the corporate as a sales representative for the industry for about 8 years. Yeah. Uh, Last year, I just certified as the CMC, the certified master coach. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a simulated coaching session on career development between Wesley and YY, and I'm going to take an exit now and leave them to have that session. And I will be right back at the end of their session.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Good evening, YY. How are you today?
Hi, evening, Wesley. I'm good today.
Great. So what can I help you with today?
Today, but actually, I'm considering should I should I change a job or should I change a industry? So I think maybe you can help me to decide.
I see. I hear you. Considering you want to change either your current job or basically move out of your industry. So, what aspect of your job that you leads to dissatisfaction, and can you identify any recurring themes?
Hmm, what is my dissatisfaction? Actually, I feel that there's some inadequate work-life balance in my current job. I have been working for this industry about 8 years in the different, although in a different company, but I can't really have a peace of mind, especially during my rest day or after the working hours, because I still need to on call because my phone actually cannot off. It's a 24 hours on. So if let's say at the late night I receive any request from or any question from the customer, actually I also need to answer them. So I feel that not so work-life balance.
I see. I can definitely
Mm,
understand your dissatisfaction when it comes to work-life balance. So, reflecting on your career, what have been your most fulfilling achievements, and why do you think?
most fulfilling achievement. Mm. Although my work life imbalance because of the customer, sometimes during the rest day I still need to attend their requests or something like that. But actually, if let's say I would say that supporting the customer to get them certified with our company, to certify with my service, actually that is
Hmm.
my um, fulfilling achievement for me.
Ah, wow, that's great. I mean, a satisfied customer is definitely a happy customer. So, how do you envision your ideal job situation, and how does it align with supporting your customer then?
Hmm, I think my ideal job, I think, is the whole company of the colleagues able to understand each other roles, and we all also able to prioritize the customer request and try to cut down the waiting time for problem solving, and not to push all the responsibility to just one person or just for the sales personnel. It's actually it's a teamwork. So I would
Oh,
like to have such of the working environment. Yeah.
wow, that's wonderful. I'm glad you have figured out your ideal job. So my next question is, what skill and strength do you possess that you believe are underutilized in your current job?
Skill and strength. Mm. Now I will say that I constantly will feedback to my superior about what I'm lacking of, then
Mhm.
what is my expectation, then what type of the improvement that I need. So for those support that they promise, then I wish that they able to keep their words. Then for
Ah,
those I'm lacking of, I also mm, think that if let's say they able to provide me some uh, room for improve.
mm, I hear you, YY. So with that, thinking about it, how would you define a success in your career? And how would the job change align with that definition?
Mm. Actually, I never thought about that. Mm, I thought if I just move to another job, then I would get better. So for me to be successful, I think I need to have a good uh, working relationship with my boss, then who are trust my capability and decision making. If let's say don't have the trust, mm, between me and my boss or the team, actually it's very hard for us to work in the long term. So I think the workflow also should be straightforward and simplified, not too much of the meetings. Then most importantly is I think the company environment support, uh, like the feedbacks or the suggestion for process improvement. Mm, if I have these in place, then I think uh, my job will be easier and more successful.
Hmm.
Mm.
So, if you are to make a career change, what fears or concerns do you have, and how do you might deal with them?
Mm, mm, I'm not very sure that I would be able to find another job that like uh, what I'm receiving right now, the salary especially. I think I I would need to find out more to see what's the other opportunity that I able to change before I make any decision.
Okay. In that case, what support system do you have in place or do you want to establish if you choose to transition smoothly?
Support system. At first, I think I need to get a mentor to give me some industry advice because if let's say change industry, especially to some other industry that I'm not familiar with, it's quite scary. So before make any decision, I need a mentor. Then I
Ah,
think I also uh, need to get the family support. Yeah.
I see. So, how will you measure this success then in terms of career transition, both in the short and long term?
Measure, for short term, if let's say after successfully the career transition,
Mhm.
the short term, of course, need to pass my probation period. Then for long term, I need to continue work on what my lacking of, especially some of my skill, the
Mhm.
skill set. I need to continuously to improve.
That's great. Well done, YY. So, do you think that I have helped you to reach a decision?
Well, I think I know that I can't make a decision simply based on the feeling. Uh, I would need do more research and get the mentor and reflect on my long term goal. Then I think I will know when it's I'm ready to make the decision.
Wonderful. I'm glad that I'll be able to help you with that. Thank you. YY.
Yeah, thanks, Wesley.
Now, that was an interesting simulated coaching session. Um, you played the part really, really well, I must say. But what struck me, and again, because of my other business that is in executive search, I realized as you were going through that whole process, this is something that many people go through. This is such a common thing. People really don't know what to do in terms of their career development and career transitions. So having that coaching and having someone to really give you the clarity of thought is something that's very, very useful.
Yes, and most people don't realize that they have to make a decision right away, but it's not true. And this is where coaches come in to actually give them that clarity, to give them that awareness that there's a lot of things that, they are built on emotion. And that is why when you actually remove that emotion and be able to think through clearly, then they realize that, there's a lot of things that they be able to work out naturally by their own and be able to make a better decision. And that's what coaches are for, to help them to remove that blind spot.
Okay, YY, thank you very much for coming on and being a simulated guest.
Thank you.
Thank you, YY.
Now, that was an interesting session, but what we'd like to do now is open the floor to questions. So if you've got any questions, if you're the audience, please message us on our social media platforms. And if we like your question, we will bring you on the show. But we've already got someone who wants to ask us a question, and I'm going to bring Kim on board first and let her ask what she was going. Hi, Kim, how are you?
Hi, good evening, Brian and Wesley. Thank you for having me here to ask a question.
Yes, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what your
Yes.
question is, please?
Yes, I work for the corporate and my background is quite diverse. I started off in logistic operation and then move on to consulting, take on to a regional role with a international US based insurance and current doing improvement and driving change and now doing the same role with a local bank, right? So it's quite diverse background. So my question link back to what Wesley mentioned about, and you also rightfully pointed towards the end, Brian, just now talking about the awareness and how coaching, comes in to um, help individual to gain clarity on their career transition. So me as a person that goes through multiple career transition, looking at my background, right? But I find a lot of time people are not sure about the moment. When do we think is the right moment for us to ask for help? So I would like to forward this question to Wesley, right? Maybe that would help us going through the motion because people say the people outside the motion gain better clarity. So maybe you can help us in that sense that how does one knows the one can refer to individual or organization when going through whatever change. No, that is the right timing for them to engage a coach. It can be a career transition or it can be a improvement or transformation or anything. What are the indicators to help them to identify and gain more awareness on this is about right the moment?
Mm. Kim, you actually brought up a very good question. So let me pose one question back to you. What is your definition of right moment?
When the need is how to say it, the right about the right timing, the needs addresses that pain sweet spots, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So the moment you thought about it, is that not the right moment?
It depends, right? Because I find a lot of time when we talk about change, it's about readiness. Sometimes it's like knowing, and after that, people are like, oh, maybe I can wait longer. Maybe I am not ready yet. And sometimes people who have this awareness, like, I should have gotten that, earlier. Sometimes things just like you wish that happened yesterday, you wish you know it earlier. So that's why I'm coming into like to prevent regrets and to prevent premature engagement that may bring some frustration during the process. So how does one gauge? This is about the right time and go through the motion. It may not be 100% for you to get, because we go through learning curves and all that. So yeah. Is there something
So
like the right moment? Maybe I should start with this.
so how will you know the right moment comes?
Mm, I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking you that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
good you point that out because a lot of times people equate the right timing with readiness. So what we see is that there's this disconnect between the two. But when we actually pose the question back to them and ask them, how do they define what is the right moment? Everyone's response is going to be different, and everyone's gauge or readiness level is also going to be different. So that is why there is no right or wrong answer, and that is the problem, because you say right timing, right? There is none. The moment you take the right action is the right timing, but then the question is, what is the right action? Your action is the action. So if you don't do it, there will never be the right timing, isn't it?
And Kim,
Yeah,
it's
in a
also,
way.
in a way, also one of the key things is this. Let me flip it around and think. The right timing is when you're not procrastinating and you're taking action. Because a lot of times we wait and wait and wait and procrastinate to wait for the right timing. But actually, the right timing was don't procrastinate, take action.
Yes.
I,
And the
I
thing
like your
about
summary, Brian. I think it helps to put things clear out there. It's like when how I interpret or summarizes our discussion here is that if you have some doubts and you don't have the clarity and you have an answer, you have a question, you don't have a definite answer, it is probably about the right timing to reach out a coach, a mentor, or someone to gain better clarity. Did that more or less
Yep,
about
yes,
there?
yep, absolutely. You answered your question.
correct. Because like you said, taking that right action doesn't necessarily mean that you quickly move to another role or you quickly change industry. It's all about the first step. And to you, the first step is reaching out, a mentor, a coach, a friend, a colleague, anyone. Yeah. So
Thank
does that
you.
help? Kim?
Yep.
Kim, thank you very much. Thank you for the question. And please continue to watch and support us in the show.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thanks, Wesley, for the answer, and Brian for your input as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's see who else we have in the queue in terms of coming on to ask questions. We have Shanta, who is coming on right now. Shanta, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Hi, Brian. Hi, Wesley. How are you?
Hi, Shanta.
Shanta,
Okay.
could you kindly give us an idea of your background, what you do, and what your question is, please?
Okay, so I'm an accountant by profession. I started with the Big Four, and I've been working with MNCs since then in the accounting field. 7 years ago, I discovered coaching, and I fell in love with coaching, and I've been coaching as well as managing my accounting role. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Fantastic. So you're relatively an early adopter in this space in Malaysia, 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think coaching was already quite big in Malaysia then, but yes, it's growing fast. So yeah, I
So
I
Shanta,
don't think
what's
I
your
was. Yeah.
question, please?
Okay, I'll keep this short. Wesley, you talked about technology earlier on, how everything is now becoming digitalized, and there's so much of virtual coaching, right? And to some extent, I can see that that is happening, and that face-to-face connection sometimes gets lost. So I would
Yes.
like to just get your feedback on how you balance technology with that personal touch.
Oh, that's a good question. And think that we have been doing that pretty much lately, and it's called hybrid, right? We actually balance in terms of remote working with going back to the office. So in a sense that, when it comes to certain priorities like meetings or customers, right, we actually go back and meet face to face. But then on an overall daily routines, we pretty much can still work remotely. So similarly with coaching as well, when it comes to technology, certain things that are seem rudimentary or basic, you can actually apply AI or any technology to assist you. But when it comes to something that can be a little more tricky or more personalized, like you say, building that relationship is one factor that's not built into AI. That is when you need to step in. So that means you can have let's say you have a few coaching sessions that are on Zoom, maybe you can have one or two that follow-ups through face-to-face. And that's one of the ways to actually to help strengthen and build that coaching relationship. And I think that's quite important as well, because even though you can't do face-to-face, at least a phone call still makes a lot of more difference, because these days everybody texts, but texts you actually lose that emotional connection, right? But a phone call would definitely build that, even though we lack the face to face, but at least hearing your voice
Mm-hmm.
on another level, it still helps. So I think that hybrid will continue, in terms of applying for whether the work environment or even in coaching. And then, of course, we talk about virtual reality. And that will actually bring us even deeper into the sense of how connected we will be. Because one of these days, when we put on that VR goggles, we will truly see our client or our colleague right next to us virtually. So that is very much different than through Zoom like this. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I take your point, right? That hybrid, that coaching and all. It's just that a lot of times you want to sometimes have that face to face, but clients are also very busy, so they
Yes.
prefer to just use Zoom. So yeah, I guess it's about making sure you spend at least one or two sessions maybe face to face. That's what I take away from you, right?
Yes. Technology definitely helps us in terms of convenience and flexibility, but definitely we do not want to lose that relationship. And that is why that face to face or even a phone call, like I said, builds that as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Wesley.
Thank you.
Shanta, thank you very much for coming on.
All right, bye.
Bye. Well, this has been a very, very productive session today. We had you, Wesley, just giving us an overview, really on career development and coaching. We had that simulated session where we had you getting YYTO on and having a great session and really helping as a typical candidate or coachee in this case, um, clarity of thought in terms of their career development. And then we've just ended our question and answer session with two individuals, Shanta and Kim, who've just given you giving us as an audience some key questions that were burning within them. Now, we've come to the end of our this week's Aha, the coaching show. But Wesley, before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
Sure. One thing I want to point out is that coaching is never a one-off session. It is a journey. And I always walk through my client in their career journey to find clarity, to find, in terms of what are the blind spots that they need to, fix and improve on. So it is definitely something that, we want to work with them over time. And just now what you saw was basically just a one time of simulated, but at least it gives, you a feel of what coaching is like. So imagine if that is done, over a few sessions, imagine the kind of clarity you will get, in terms of, what things that you need to work on to actually achieve your ideal dream job. So this is why I'm so passionate when it comes to career coaching, to helping people to actually achieve the highest potential and not just feeling stuck or feeling, that they are in a dead end job because they couldn't realize what their passion is.
Now, thank you very much, Wesley, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Brian.
Now, we've been speaking to Westley Foong. He's a speaker, trainer, and certified master coach. I'm Brian Fernandez, and you've been watching and listening to Biztech's Aha, the coaching show. Now, this show will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and third-party websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.